But let's see, what else have you got in here? Well, I think I finally, long in April of 1970, well, we worked, Bill Bryant and Carl Purcell were 2 out of 26 on the Wayne County Commissioners, and they really worked hard. They were a big power, believe it, 2 out of 26, and they came to the legislature at the same time. But I remember at a breakfast once, I told Bill Bryant that I wasn't going to run again. This was in April. That was the first time I told anybody that. This was after he was, this including my wife. I didn't even tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. And I said, I'm not going to run again. I expect you to run. So that's the way it happened.
And he was ready.
Yeah.
Was Bill a teacher, or what was his?
No. Bill's a lawyer. Bill's a graduate of Princeton and a graduate of that school in Ann Arbor, law school in Ann Arbor. You've heard of that?
Yes, I have.
And practiced law in Detroit for a number of years.
I guess I thought of him as a teacher because one of the last things that you and I did was to look at his textbook. He was the textbook. He was,
that thing. Yeah.
He was writing about government.
Well, okay. That you might have thought he was a teacher, but he was also very interested. He was a chairman of the education committee.
That's right. You also had what I thought was a really healthy relationship with the press. You always were very easy to talk with Tom Bray, with the media. In fact, at one point, you and I talked about you doing even more of the press work rather than hiring an API. A media specialist, because you enjoyed working with them.
I had a very good relationship with the press when I was in the legislature. And it's easy to have a good relationship with the press. You just tell it the way it is. I mean, if you can't tell it, you tell them you can't tell it. I mean, they're fine to work with. I've never had any problem with the press.
You and Hugh McDermott seem to have a good relationship. Yeah. You mentioned some Tom Green stories.
Yeah. Well, I've never had any problem at all. But where I really got to enjoy it was when the API had a retrenchment situation, and I was the only guy, so I did all the press work and all of everything, and then my famous cockroach theory, you know that.
Absolutely.
My famous cockroach theory is that we in the API didn't have any PAC. So we had to rely on fax and all that sort of stuff. And believe it or not, representing the big oil companies, our position was usually best for the consumer. And so when we had legislation going that were trying to outflank us and change the marketplace to the disadvantage of the consumer, why the only recourse that we had from people who gave campaign contributions was to go to the press and to make sure that the press lambasted these bills in the districts where we had swing votes, like DeMazzo's and stuff like that. And
they would shine the light.
And they would shine the light, and the cockroaches would run for cover. And that's why we call it the cockroach theory. So that works very well.
I want to thank you very much, Bob. This has been very enjoyable.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure.